Hi, I'm Amy McCormack, the president of Calumet College of St. Joseph, and we're going to have a great morning talking to our president of the Student Government Association, Desiree, Vega. And so I'm all yours, and I'm interested to hear what questions you have and information that I could share for the students.
Yes, I think to start off, let's talk about our residence hall coming. I think that's such big news for our campus.
That is an exciting project for us, certainly. And this week we had our trailer show up from Hassey Construction, so we are starting to see activity on the side of the residence hall. So the residence hall, of course, it's our first on-campus housing. It's something in 2017 when I arrived at Calumet College that I definitely heard students ask me after I got here, but even in my interview, are we going to build a dorm? Are we going to build on-campus housing? And so that has been sort of a mission of mine, how we could do it. Now we were able to add the apartments at the Ileana, so half a mile away, walking distance, right downtown Whiting, and we have about 50 students living there, which many of your friends probably live there. Hopefully they enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And that's apartment style, but our on-campus housing will be right here. It's 3 stories, which you've seen the rendering. We have the rendering on display. 63 beds. It will be double rooms for students, and shared bathrooms, but all the bathrooms have their privacy for the shower and the bathroom area, so that while it's shared, you have privacy, but yet it is a way to also kind of meet students coming and going. There are lounge spaces on the first floor and the third floor. Laundry in the building. There will be RAs on every floor, so opportunities for student leadership, but also programming for the building. On the second floor, there's a small kitchen and an area for people to microwave, or if you want to order in even, and a place to eat outside of your room. So we are trying to make it feel like you're home, with a study space, lounge space to watch TV. We have sort of a media room that if a couple students want to go gaming or watch a movie together, or practice your instrument, or just escape to quiet space, that will be a room as well, and there will be security. So
lovely.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's an aggressive schedule, so as you come in and out of campus every day, we're just getting started, and we did get our construction schedule from Hassey Construction. Our developer is UHS, University Housing Solutions, out of Ohio. They do campus housing primarily for small Catholic institutions. It is to be completed by August. Classes next year will start on August 29th, and that is the date they should be removing everything, and we will have some students that need to move in early, of course. So we're creating our plans. We know it's an aggressive schedule. Very exciting.
Yes, so exciting. There's been talk around the town for years about dorms coming up and dorms coming up, and you're such a big piece of making it happen. So I want to thank you from all the students. It's so exciting to have that.
It's exciting for me because I do remember the student questions when I interviewed for this position were around housing.
Yes.
And so, it's 4 years later. But we have had a pandemic, and we were able to take a step forward with the Ileana, but to be able to deliver on that, I'm really excited.
I think everyone is very appreciative Not only does it give opportunity for more students to come here and be able to live on campus, but I think it's going to boost interaction and morale of students on campus, even those who commute, even those who will still live in Ileana and, around town in general. I think it's going to be a huge piece for everyone, not just new students coming. So it's going to be fantastic. I think I'm very excited.
And certainly the people living on campus, they all have friends too that might be commuter, but then they'll go to athletic games, which we have a good turnout anyway. So hopefully that will even increase. But being able to come over and meet a student that might live here and hang out and go to the library. And so I do feel like it'll add more activity and be more convenient for students to be right here on campus. So
I completely agree.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be fantastic. And along with the residence hall comes a recreational field for our new sprint football team. I think that's a great addition to the campus as well.
Yeah, so being able to develop a zone 5-acre piece of property to really be for students, also a resource for the community as well. But the residence hall, it's the first residence hall, but our site plan would have another residence hall. So we will build that as the demand justifies. So hopefully we'll fill the first building rather quickly, and that there will still be demand for additional on-campus housing. We will then also green the site. So as you know, the site currently is an old asphalt parking lot with some green space, but not lawn necessarily. Yes. So we are going to keep all the trees and the beautiful canopy of trees, but we will be converting that parking lot to green space around the residence halls. And then behind it will be a student athletic recreation field. So that field, as you mentioned, will support our inaugural sprint football team, which will start in August 2022 as well. We have our coach hired, and sprint football, that my first question is that 6-on-6 or what is that? Well, sprint football is football as you know it, full pads, helmets, same number of players, the same size field. The only difference is you have to weigh less than 178 pounds. Right. I think when the league first started on the East Coast, which was 1934, it might have been 165. It's now 178, but it makes it more a game of agility and speed, a running game, and certainly there's still tackle and but the players are similar size, so you don't have the big variation, which also cuts down on concussions and injuries. So it's something unique for us. So I think about Calumet College, and I think football was talked about at one point before I arrived. And maybe I wouldn't have been as excited, but I'm really excited about the opportunity to be part of the founding organization for the Midwest Sprint Football League. So there are 6 colleges, 5 of which are Catholic, but they're all currently faith-based. That's not a requirement, but it's just great that we were able to work together, and starting in January, we started having a few conversations. So for me, it also demonstrates the ability with a good idea and collaboration and working with other colleagues, presidents, but also athletic directors, how quickly you can act on an initiative. So there are 6 in the Midwest. We are the first league. There's an East Coast league that has big name schools that everyone would recognize. Some of them have regular football, like Army, Navy, Cornell, University of Pennsylvania, but they also have sprint football. And so I'm hoping this will provide an opportunity for all those football players that think they're not probably the size to go on and play college football. They can come to Calumet College and get a great education and still pursue maybe their passion for football.
Yes, it definitely caters to that population.
I also wanted to mention with sprint football that the field also gives our our campus the first on-campus field. So as far as outdoor recreation, and certainly sprint football, but also soccer, men's and women's soccer, to be able to use it as a practice field. And it is, we have it labeled as an athletic recreation field. So while we might play scrimmages, it's really intended for practice and recreation, so the students can be out there playing flag football, or the dancers could be on the field, or just frisbee, or out there doing exercises. So it will be for the resident students to have that green space right next to them, and then for the community to be able to have a more beautiful space than an asphalt parking lot, to have a green space that is along the Lake George Trail and the biking trails and walking trails around the area. I think it will really just enhance the kind of views of the campus from what our public walking and biking and right-of-ways.
Yeah,
so exciting.
I think that's great. Honestly, before we introduced this, I never even heard of sprint football. I was like, what is that? They're like, oh, it's so cool. It's just for like smaller dudes to play football. And I think it caters to a very specific population. People who don't have like the size to play college football, like you said, get the opportunity to, do a collegiate sport. If you love football, but you aren't a 200+ guy who could plow anyone, I think it'll be perfect for those kids. Yeah. So it'll be great for enrollment, great for, I think it'll be so fun to attend those games too, being able to go to an outdoor game.
I think
football.
We have our first game scheduled in Louisville against Bellarmine. I believe it's going to be September 17th, so watch for the date. I'm sure we'll have a fan bus heading down there, and I've already made arrangements to make sure my calendar's clear so I can be there. And the other sort of exciting when you think about student spirit, we are planning, St. Joe College in Rensselaer is certainly our parent institution. We've been independent since 1971, but we were a satellite of St. Joe, and St. Joe was founded by Missionaries of the Precious Blood, the same sponsoring order as Calumet College. And we are talking about doing a rival game in Rensselaer against St. Mary of the Woods College in Terre Haute.
Yes.
So it's a chance to meet in the middle. They were all female at one point. So sprint football is a great initiative for them. St. Joe College was historically a men's college, and of course Calumet College has always been co-ed. So I think it's a great story, and I'm really excited to create some energy sort of at a halfway point in the middle of the state, where we were just talking yesterday, I'm not sure what it'll be, but we want to do a passing, sort of like IU and Purdue do for the Oak and Bucket, and we talked about a torch, just the light of knowledge, but to pass a torch back and forth, and we then talked about how the torch is the center of the Indiana flag. So I'm not sure if that will be but that just came up yesterday, as a matter of fact, and I'm like, I love it. So
yes.
So we will have something for a rival that we'll pass back and forth, so that's really exciting.
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, are all the games going to be far, Terre Haute, Louisville?
No, there are 7 games a season, and those 7 games, every off year, one will be 4 home games, one will be 3 home games, because it's an odd number. Then we'll have this rival game that will, of course, always be away, so there won't be a whole home field advantage necessarily. So approximately 3 games a year would be home, and we are looking at our home field, having conversations are underway with a couple of the local high schools to host our home games. They would be on Saturday, so they wouldn't compete with the evening football games, and then those would be 3 a year.
Okay.
So.
And what's the reason for having the games on a high school football field as opposed to the one we're building here, the recreation?
The one we're building here, the size, while it is a regulation field, there won't be bleachers and a press box and that sort of thing. There might be a few bleachers, but not enough to host what we hope to be a big crowd.
Yeah.
That's why I said we would likely have a scrimmage here,
right.
where it would just be students that would come out, maybe an interleague scrimmage, or so we will have competitions that would be smaller in nature, but a conference or a league game, we hope to draw a big crowd, and at least our current plan doesn't have bleachers or a press box or sound and lighting or anything like that.
That's super fun still.
Yeah.
That is very exciting. So a fan bus to these far games. That sounds like plans.
Definitely. I plan to make sure that happens. I don't know, I might even ride on the fan bus to get people excited, but I definitely hope that we have a good crowd that comes down. So
yeah, you're going to be starting some chants on the bus?
Yeah.
Be singing songs?
You know me, I'm the biggest cheerleader for our athletes and for our students in general, but so I'm sure you'll be able to hear me from the sidelines.
Yeah, I hope that there's a big turnout for fan buses. I think that would be super fun.
And our band, being able to have our band and our pep band at games, and certainly dancers and cheer team. Yes. So it's a new initiative. It's an exciting initiative, and I think of Calumet College. We're known for bowling, which is a unique sport, so I thought sprint football fits right in there.
Yeah.
To be known for something that most other schools aren't.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of pieces like that, a lot of unique pieces. That's awesome. It gives students an opportunity, something else to do on campus or after hours. Jumping on a bus and heading to Louisville sounds like a blast. I would love to do that, especially to support a new team that's coming to
We'll
campus.
confirm the date, but I think it's September 17th is what's tentatively on the schedule. So
fantastic.
Make sure you mark it out.
Sounds like a blast. Sounds like a blast. Okay, next subject would be our grant that we just received. And I'm hearing, a lot of talk, so tell us a little bit more about that. What are we doing with all this money that our college is getting?
Well, we did a proposal last year to the Department of Ed. It's a Title III grant, so only Hispanic serving institutions were eligible for the grant. Our proposal was around STEM education and increasing the number of Latinos that major in STEM majors. So we have biomedical science and forensic science. We're definitely looking at ways to work with the local high schools. We have 7 feeder schools where we will have a college coach, so someone, and they're primarily Hispanic, and so being able to have a college coach really showing how college is possible, talking about careers in STEM fields. We also have additional tutoring support, helping with retention, because it's one thing to recruit students, but making sure that the wraparound services are there to support them and also be able to have them graduate in those majors and get jobs, and being able to have exposure to careers in STEM fields. We also are looking at some of the supplies that might be helpful. So from a technology standpoint, laptops, Wi-Fi, any additional support, whether that's equipment support, people support, tutoring, library, we're trying to make that available so that we can increase the college participation rate. Because that is certainly Latino students' growing population in Northwest Indiana. It's something we're very proud of. We are the first Hispanic serving institution in the state of Indiana. We have the highest diversity index in the state of Indiana. So we are in a unique and very special place, and so how we can help with some of the goals for the state of Indiana, but also federal goals, to make sure that we are a resource for college education and graduate students, and that they're able to have a great liberal arts education, but also a career focus. And I know you've had a great opportunity while you've been here for an internship and additional grant support and some work during your senior year, and
Yes.
hopefully a job after you graduate. So
Yep, that is the goal.
yeah.
Still seeing that one through. I'm a little more than halfway through.
Okay.
The internship. So I got hired in September of last year. So September of next year will be my 2-year, expiration kind of from when I started.
That's
so,
great.
Yeah.
And that's at Horizon Bank, and you're one of the
Yes.
Horizon Scholars. So that's the other critical piece of the grant. It's a $5 million grant. It's $1 million a year. So it's not, 5 million sounds like a huge amount, but it's $1 million a year for 5 years. And the other big piece of that is for internships and careers in STEM fields, to be able to help students see that pathway from in high school. Let's see, do I want to go to college or not? So we want to increase that college going rate. Then what do I want to major in? Well, being able to identify some of the science majors, technology, engineering, math, and then being able to, once students get here, if they want to major in for us, it's mostly science fields. If they want to major in that field, that we make sure we have support services. And then really connecting it to career and what can I do with that major. So it's really starting in the high schools, getting high school students interested, getting them to consider majors. Not everyone will major in STEM, but to consider STEM majors, and then to also be able to identify what they can do with a major in biomedical science, or so that they can kind of chart a path to their career.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe the college coach is Melissa Benavides.
It is.
She's wonderful. I think she'll be perfect for the position.
She'll be out in all the schools.
Yes.
And not necessarily just recruiting for Calumet College. It's really to help students in the 7 high schools that I mentioned really think more about going to college, and
Yes.
hopefully we can be a resource, and then Calumet College is an option.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So besides, recruiting students here with the grant, is there anything else that we're doing with it?
That's the primary. I think I've covered everything in the grant, but probably what I would also mention, it is part of a larger initiative around fundraising for the institution. So in 2020, we did work with the Lilly Endowment, and we did receive $1 million grant that was used to renovate this library. So
Yes.
that's another one when you think it's been a long year, but it hasn't even been a year since we started the renovation of the library. So the Lilly grant funded a number of new initiatives in academics. So our collaboration with Ivy Tech for cybersecurity, our collaboration with Marian University for nursing, our public safety program, education programs. So those programs that are strong programs for us, and then also some scholarship support. So that was another big grant I wanted to mention. I've also been working to raise scholarship dollars. So we've received a couple significant contributions for student scholarships, and that is a component of our fundraising campaign. So the residence hall, the athletic field, the next biggest component would be student scholarships. So those are mostly to support need-based scholarships, but they are also, there are some merit criteria in a few of them, but for the most part, it's need-based scholarship support. So for our students, I have one proposal out that I hope is successful to help us fund our zero EFC scholarships. So those are students that qualify for the greatest need in scholarship support, and hopefully being able to fund that externally would be a big benefit to the college. And teacher scholarships, that's another thing I'm working on, just because Northwest Indiana is in such great need for teachers, and there's a gap between the open positions and the supply of teachers going in, especially certain fields. And so we've had a long-standing teacher education program, and being able to provide scholarship support for teachers currently in a traditional track teacher education program, but equally important, the transition to teacher. So if someone is in a different career path and doesn't find it fulfilling but thinks they might be a good teacher, being able to give them scholarship support. And obviously those are typically your adult students that want to make a career change, or in some cases they've retired from a career but yet they still want to work and do something. They could come and in 14 months do a transition to teaching program and become a teacher.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's something that draws students here is how much scholarship we give. It gives people who don't think they have, the money or the opportunity to come to college and get further education, the opportunity to do so. So I think our college does a fantastic job already of providing that support to students. So this fundraising campaign will only help more. And so the more students that come, the more successful we can be.
A majority, not 100%, but in the high 90s, of our students get some sort of scholarship support. Yes. And so I think the veterans get some scholarships, certainly tuition aid by the federal government, and then Hammond has college bound, Whiting has some scholarship programs, so there are external scholarships for some students, but probably 95% of our students get some sort of scholarship support. Especially our traditional age students. For our adult students, a lot of that might be tuition remission from their employer, but so I was speaking of our traditional age.
Right. So this huge fundraising campaign has given us so many opportunities. Alongside it has come our new sculpture outside the front.
Yes.
So I was attending that ceremony where it was
in the rain.
Yes, but I love the rain.
Okay, good.
It was a fantastic day for me. And I actually went out there and saw it and, read the quotes, and it's lovely. So
good.
If you could tell us a little more about that for the people who weren't at the ceremony and your I Know a Guy speech, if you could sum that up and let us know.
Okay, I will. That's a long story, but I will tell you just a little bit. It is a very special piece, and so you heard my remarks. So the sculpture is called Fire and Water, and it is personal to me because I am the artist. So I trying to think, it was probably April, maybe March of last year. So it was still the lingering of the pandemic, and it started with a couple convergences. So we think about our 70th anniversary, which was 2021. Our first class was in 1951. And so September of 2021 was our 70th anniversary. So we've got, we're in that right now. And at the same time, Father Kevin Scalf, who had been with me and across the hall, and our Director of Mission and Ministry and Program Director for the theology program, was being reassigned to Cincinnati and going back to his hometown. And I remember thinking that the role of the CPPS and the religious here on campus, so Father Kevin, we have Brother Ben, we have Brother Jim, but as with all institutions, my former institution, there were no more religious around campus, and we're lucky to still have 3. And so I was just thinking about how I wanted to recognize the 70th anniversary, and it was a Saturday morning, I remember, and it was cold out, so that's why I'm thinking it was early March, and I just sketched out on a piece of paper an idea for 7, they turn out to be either flames or blades or ribbons, whatever, it's up to interpretation. And those 7, I like to call them flames or blades, because when I look at it, it was really representative of our industry. So I knew that I wanted a sculpture made out of steel. So it's made out of stainless steel and looks beautiful and catches your eye. Then I wanted to represent kind of the industry and resources around us. So it's called Fire and Water. And you know, from right here, we're next to the refinery. So there's a lot of fire that you see off on the distance from the blast furnace and the flames. So I thought I would call it Fire and Water. And as I looked at it, I thought it also reminded me of plant life that you find in the water, whether it's the Calumet River, Wolf Lake, Lake George, or Lake Michigan right next to us. So then I got to attach to it's a very simple sculpture, but I wanted it also to speak to our pillars. So while we have 5 pillars, there are 7 flames, blades, that each one of them has a quote on it. And I started working with campus ministry, identifying, I think we started with probably 70 quotes, to be honest. Oh, and then trying to narrow them down because I did want them to, in some way, represent our 5 pillars. And again, it's up to how the quotes speak to you, but being able to be representative of the 5 pillars of open to growth, intellectually competent, religious, loving, and commitment to justice. So, a quote that maybe not is, directly obvious, but I think of it as open to growth is one of my favorites. Aspire not to have more, but to be more. So where that fits into one of those pillars, I think it can fit into a number of them. Yes. But hopefully someone reads it and reflects on it, either a prospective student, but also a visitor or someone that might just be walking around the campus or walking to the trails and walks by, and it gives you something to reflect on. And then another one that I spoke about, which maybe speaks directly to a few of the pillars in particular, is be who God meant you to be and you will set the world on fire. So that's a special quote. That's St. Catherine of Siena, and it certainly speaks to religious and be who God meant for you to be, but also the actual sculpture of fire and water, you will set the world on fire. So and then the story, after I gave my remarks, I was telling my husband about it. He's like, oh, you have to write those down. So the dedication was on a Thursday. On Friday, I tried to write my remarks because I think it would be, it's a great story about a sculpture that started with, really, I say started with the ladies, because the first bit of funding, it was fully funded, came from the First Catholic Slovak Ladies Association, and they had funded a proposal that we had submitted about creating a giving garden. And so the giving means a number of things. It's kind of the entrance to campus where the chapel and the food pantry, and so the whole giving garden concept was around mind, body, and soul, and providing nourishment for all. And so this sculpture, we started last year by creating a seating space and some landscaping for you to sit, and then I always knew I wanted to add a piece of art there. So I feel like it's almost complete, but we also have some additional funding that will finish off the giving garden, thanks to Frank and Shirley Schilling. So we have more to come next spring. But what started with the First Catholic Slovak Ladies Association, and the local chapter, and then my drawing, which I'm not an artist, so I'm an accountant, but I'm also creative in some ways.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, some better than others. And so this artistic rendition I did of the sculpture, in my remarks I said started as a project by the ladies, but throughout the project, the 6 months, the number of conversations I had with people that I'd talk to, and they'd say, well, I can't help you, but I got a guy. Or I'd mention we need this, and they're like, oh, I know a guy that can do that. Or it's too small of a job for me, but let me connect you with a guy I know. So it started with the ladies, but then I felt like it became this story theme throughout it that was, I got a guy. And well, I think you know from the comments, I wrapped it up with, I think we all have a guy with a capital G. And how a project like this starts from a seed and comes together, I think is magical in its own way, and wouldn't happen if we weren't all connected in some way. So I also felt like it was a spiritual journey for me, and started with representing the college, our 70 years, and certainly the mission of our sponsoring order, the Missionaries of the Precious Blood, that when it's finally done and it's dedicated, you realize that these things are spiritual journeys too, that all come together with some intentionality.
Yes, so everything all came full circle, pulling pieces from our community and all the hard work you did and all your guys.
Yeah,
that you now know.
And I just can't thank Bob Miglarini had been a long time trustee, and he's an emeritus trustee, works in the metal business. And then Vidamos, Scott Vidamos is a local business, family-owned business right here in East Chicago, that he was certainly instrumental in doing all the plasma cutting of the quotes, and then also the installation. And the artist was someone that I had met by accident, but we certainly had a family connection that who would have ever known that? Not a family, but our extended families had a connection, which caused us to have a connection, but didn't know that until after we'd talked for a while. And the other thing I found kind of heartwarming, but I hope it's how I represent myself as a president, as someone very accessible. I don't think he knew I was the president of the university until he came here for the dedication.
Really?
So, which I thought is great, because I don't always lead with, oh, I'm the president of Calumet College. And he probably thought, I was just somebody working on a sculpture, but I guess I maybe didn't tell him that, or I introduced myself and said it was for Calumet College. So that was also kind of special, how that worked out.
Yeah, I think small connections like that speak to God's plan. Because what are the odds? I heard that story. What are the odds?
I know.
And so for you to connect with someone that's so distant, it was an accident, but also there was such an intimate connection, from your families. It was awesome.
And not to know that at all. So again, I do think that I often say, God works in mysterious ways. And so I was just really grateful that all worked out. And the dedication, obviously, the Feast of St. Gaspar was the 21st of October, so we had it on October 28th, so I wanted to have it in the month of the Feast of St. Gaspar, which is our patron saint.
Yes.
So
all full circle.
Yeah.
Everything's
so
connected.
It was great. And I do hope to continue to do some beautification of the campus, and hopefully in the time that you've been here, you have seen that. I call them Pride in Place projects. I do want students to be able to connect with places on campus, whether it's the library. So we're sitting here, we've created a lot of special places in the library that hopefully students find, whether it's a study room, a Zoom room, the place upstairs where you're overlooking the entrance and it's more quiet space, or the tables in the basement where groups can meet, or just a couch to sit and relax on. The tutoring center, I think, is a beautiful space, and so hopefully it's a welcome and inviting space for students, because we can all use a little tutoring help from time to time. I remember my times in college, and that was having a nice, peaceful, pleasant area when you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting this, I've got a test tomorrow, I don't understand the material. That's a stressful situation, so I really wanted the tutoring center to feel calming and a beautiful place for you to go and comfortable.
Yeah, it's a complete 180 from when I started here.
Good.
You know, I'm a senior now, so over 3 years I've been here, and this is, you know, it's awesome. I'm so happy that we were able to do this, and it creates such an inviting place for people to just, you know, get their stuff done. College is a hard time for students.
Yep.
And
you know, there's 2 other spaces when we talk about our fundraising campaign that most students, some students are aware of, but the second floor where the dancers use for practice periodically is space that was built with the Commons was built, and it is intended to support additional academic programs, and we're talking about creating a nursing lab and also expanding a bit of our dining services. And then the other space, which most students probably haven't seen, is our 7th floor. And it's a real stunning views from the 7th floor that will overlook the Lost Marsh Golf Course, the new residence hall.
Wow.
Yeah, and it is a space that hasn't been used for a long time, and it's not currently handicap accessible. And so my goal is to make that a real wow space for students, the community, to be able to have leaders come in and provide, whether it's lectures or interactions with students. So it has views of the industry in the area, so overlooks BP and the steel industry, and then Lake Michigan, and it's the highest, I think, highest not point in the Whiting-Hammond area, in the Robertsdale-Whiting area, but occupied space. It could be the highest occupied space. So I think the steeple at St. John's would definitely be higher, and it might be occupied by the bells. So person ringing the bell. So,
yeah.
But it's very cool space. Right now, it's not space I'd want to show people because it needs a lot of work. But I certainly have a vision for what I think it can be, and how much like the library, a space that was underutilized by students is now a really welcoming and exciting and active and energizing space. I hope that I can create that on the 7th floor too, so that's another one of the projects in the fundraising campaign.
That is awesome. So you mentioned the place where the dance team practices nursing labs. That's great.
Yes, so that is to support our partnership we started this year an Associates of Health Sciences, and that Associates in combination with a Bachelor's of Nursing degree that would be offered by Marian University, mostly on our campus. We're still working out the details, and I've had a couple meetings, so we're hoping we have to build the nursing lab first, and then we have to get approval by the State Board of Nursing. But we'd like to have that by the fall, but that would have to have a couple more things happen, and certainly have to find funding to make that happen. So I have a meeting next week about funding that space, and we'll continue to hopefully identify opportunities for potential funders that want to invest in our future.
Rigorous schedule.
Yeah.
You are such a hardworking woman. I love it.
Well, I play by coming. Tonight is our last volleyball game.
Yes.
And it's been really fun to watch our women's volleyball team and how they've progressed over the last year. And even though they don't always come out winning on a game, it is a hard-fought game with some great play, and love volleyball. I've had a chance to see you at a track meet, so I really enjoy watching the students. And one of my favorite events was the Humanities Fest, so I even got to do a little open mic on storytelling so that the faculty could critique me a little bit. But I love to see students write their poetry, to do their public speaking, to do their storytelling. So for me, those are always areas where you step out of your comfort zone, and I'm always so impressed with students that use their creative talents and produce their own work. And while I again, am more the finance, accounting, math type person. I guess I admire a great storyteller, and one of my greatest movies is Out of Africa, and the part I like the best is where Meryl Streep tells the story. She starts with the sentence, and she's just a magnificent storyteller in that movie. And so that's something that I hope I can continue to get better. So at the Humanities Fest, I thought, like with most things, you can't get better if you don't practice. So I hope the students weren't too hard on me, but I thought, well, I need to demonstrate. I was outside of my comfort zone, and I did my own story, and so it was fun
to get out, think outside the box.
I know it.
Get out of your usual routine.
Exactly.
But I think that's what, unique pieces we've been talking about this whole time. Our campus, you wouldn't expect the president of our campus to be at so many athletic competitions and participating and telling stories on a mic when a small event for Humanities Fest. And I think that's what a lot of people love about this campus and you in general, is you're not just some, big authority, top head of the school that doesn't interact with anyone. Like, while you're doing all this stuff and doing meetings and building nursing labs and having residence halls built, you're walking around and checking up on everyone, and you're cheering people on at their games. And like, I was sitting with Esther the other day, and you popped in and you were like, "Hey, you work today, right?" And I was like,
"How do you know?
How would you know that?" Like, it's just so personable to be able to, talk to you, and it's a relationship that not everyone gets, and that's unique to our school because you care.
I definitely am here for the students, and again, when I interviewed for the job, I remember for the search committee, I said that if you're looking for a president that is out all the time or on the 6th floor in their office all the time, I'm probably not the right president, because I am definitely want to interact with the students. And being a college president is hard. There are a lot of days where you're juggling so many things, and not everything goes perfect, and a lot of challenges with the pandemic and the decline in students going to college, whether it's for financial reasons or or the pandemic or the online learning that just doesn't work for some students. So there are definitely challenges, but on those days that I feel like, oh my gosh, it's a tough job, not for the weak, I get my energy by going down and talking to you, or going down to talk to a student and see how they're doing and how their classes are going. And I think we talk about our motto of be known, be successful, belong. And I want to make sure that we deliver on that. So I want to feel like I know the students. With the mask, it's really hard for me to know everyone's name now, because different hairstyles or hats or glasses or no glasses, and then a mask, it makes it a lot more challenging. But I like to feel like when people come across the stage during graduation, I want to feel like I know a little bit about the students, or ideally know their name and their major, but also making sure students feel like they belong, and that sense of belonging is so important for everybody, really, a sense of belonging. But certainly on a college campus, it makes you deal with the stresses of college if you feel like you have a place where you fit in and belong. And so I'm always, even we were talking earlier about just making sure the campus climate, that we're such a diverse institution, but I don't want to take anything for granted. And I want to hear from students if they feel their felt experience isn't what we say as far as being known and belonging. So
yeah, I think you do a fantastic job.
Yeah,
fostering that and everything our campus stands for. So
good.
Yeah, with that, I don't think there's
well, thank you. Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I hope that we're able to talk often, and that students during a study break, we'll tend to watch this and get a little more information, but also
Yes.
know that I'm always accessible. And when I do walk around, if a question pops up, for students to always feel like they can stop me and ask me. And while I may not always know the answer, I can find the answer, or I can direct. I don't solve all problems, and if there are issues, I want to make sure they're handled at the right place. That's also part of our Catholic social teaching, that it's where people have the most knowledge and ability to solve problems and make decisions. It doesn't always come from the top, and so, but I'm certainly want to help facilitate those conversations and get to know students. So
yes, and me representing student government want to be a part of those as well.
Good.
So if someone can't get a hold of you, I'm there.
Yes, exactly.
And vice versa.
And
so.
student government, you've got a great team this year, so
Yes.
hopefully with you and your team, and that students feel like there are people that they can talk to, and then I'm always available to meet with student government.
Of course.
Okay, good.
All right.
Thank you.